I was supposed to run 17 marathons in 2023 to complete my 100 before 40 mission. I ended up running 20 marathons instead. You know how it goes. Once you get started, you can't stop. In this video, folks, I give you my top 10 of the 20 marathons that I ran in 2023. This is my subjective rating based on how I enjoyed the marathons, how well organized the marathons were, to me at least, and to a degree the level of difficulty. At number 10, folks, is the Galaxy Bingo Wolfpack Marathon that is held in Tzaneen. This was my first time to run this marathon. I did not know much about it and ran in the darkness, literally. You go out and back past the starting point and do a loop around the farming areas. If being out in the bundus is your thing, this is a must-do. The aid stations were superbly stocked and the weather was good on the day. I've heard stories that it gets hot there, but when I did it, the weather was superb. I also managed to pick my own fruit on the route. That was one of the highlights of my day, being able to pick fruits without having to look over your shoulder worrying that someone is going to say you are stealing or you are trespassing. So if you are into harvesting fruit by the roadside, there you go, this is your marathon. At number 9, folks, is the Sasso Secunda Marathon. This is one of the best organized marathons on the South African race calendar. The aid stations never disappoint, and this year was no exception. The highlight was pacing Madam Bus Driver Extraordinaire Shahida Maki Tungo to qualify for the Comrades Marathon. I'm happy to report that she made it comfortably, but I was left a bit behind trying to help a brother whom we had picked along the way. The brother man didn't make it on the day, but I later saw him on TV as I was watching the Comrades Marathon being cut off just after the halfway mark. I really hope his next attempt would be successful. Talking about the course is not really difficult. It's a 2-lapper, so maybe that's the downside of it, because for those who know, 2-lappers tend to be a psychological warfare when you go for the second lap, especially if things are not going well for you on the day. So if you are to go there, be prepared for the 2-lap psychologically, but you can rest assured that the aid stations will be at your service. At number 8 is the Johannesburg North City Marathon. This is a very well organized race around the suburbs in the north of Johannesburg, as the name suggests. This year the route was slightly different because the race started and ended at the Delta Park Sports Field. It normally starts and ends at Max Park, and as I understand it, it is back to Max Park next year. If you are looking for some hill training, the Johannesburg North City Marathon is the right place to be, even though Graham Block will tell you that it is flat. I ran much of the second half with a good friend Nozogo Mfenyana, and we enjoyed catching up on the different running adventures each of us has done. It was an easy run at the end and we managed to do a decent time despite all the hills that, as I said, Graham Block will tell you it's just flat. At number 7 is the Kazungula Bridge Marathon. I was quite excited going into this one. It was my first race outside South Africa since 2019. It was an adventure and a half, I must say. The trip there was long and we even slept by the roadside. Then there were a few challenges with the race pack collection. We had to wait for t-shirts despite having indicated our sizes when we registered for the race months before the race. The race start was also a bit chaotic because there was no clear communication. However, once we got going, things got better. The route is beautiful, especially the bridge section. This is where the 4 countries meet, namely Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia and Botswana. So that's a great spot to be, especially on a run. Talking about the bridge section, the only downside was that they opened the bridge to traffic while we were still running, and that posed a hazard to runners. I hope next year they will improve on this aspect and close the bridge at least until the last runners have been through the bridge or are cut off. The aid stations though were well stocked and that helped because it was very hot I can only imagine them running out of water on such a hot day. But for this year's edition, it was brilliant, and I hope they keep it up. Overall, it was a great running expedition, and I would definitely do it again. At number 6 is the Titanium's Marathon in Bloemfontein. Again, this was one of the well-organized marathons I did in 2023. The aid stations were well stocked, and the guys at the aid stations were a life and a half. They were just very friendly. They even got us to dance. We ran on a sub 5-hour bus driven by a local lady, Megs. It was a blast. It was one of the most comfortable runs I've done in a long time. At times we got excited and forgot that it was a sub 5-hour bus and started cruising way ahead of schedule. In the end, we were forced to take a walk just to avoid finishing about 10 minutes ahead of time. It is definitely a must-do and a race that I would do again. At number 5 is the iconic Wally Hayward Marathon. The Wally Hayward Marathon always lives up to expectation as a befitting honor to the legend Wally Hayward. This year was special for me because it was my 100th marathon. It was the peak of the 100 before 40. The whole team was out in full force and I had a great run. And to state the obvious, the aid stations were brilliant as usual. The weather was also good, making the overall experience great. The Wally Hayward is a must-do for any marathon enthusiast, and again, I would go back to the Wally Hayward Marathon any day. At number 4, folks, is the Big 5 Marathon. This is a real adventure marathon held in a private game reserve. There are no fences between the runners and the Big 5 animals in this park. You always have to keep wondering if an elephant, buffalo, or lion, or any of the Big 5 is going to pop out of the bushes in front of you or behind you. Luckily, this year we did not have any elephants blocking the route or lions being too close to the route, so it was a smooth sailing, no interruptions at all. This was the most difficult marathon that I did in 2023. Luckily, I ran with a good friend Nozuko from start to finish. This provided a cushion as you could talk to someone when the going got tough. We got tired of running and walked, then got tired of walking and ran. Nozuko even had a wardrobe change along the way. It was a typical Ayashi Samateki kind of situation. In the end, it was a great marathon weekend away from the concrete jungle. If you're looking for an adventure marathon, this is the one to do. We are now on the podium, folks, and it's the big 3, the top 3. The bronze marathon goes to Maree Marathon. This is run in a national game reserve, and as I understand it, there are no fences between the runners and the Big 5 animals. However, the rangers are kept on their toes and rifles in hand throughout the race. I almost missed this one, folks, because I battled to get out of the bush lodge where we stayed for this weekend. I forgot to make arrangements to leave early and the gate only opened at 6. The marathon was starting at 6. I still had to travel about 90 kilometers and it was on a gravel road, so that took a bit of time. Anyway, even though I did not see any animals, the views were just breathtaking. I think this was the most picturesque race that I did in 2023. Those views in the valleys as you go up and down those mountains are just something to die for. I would run 42 kilometers just to see those views. I must say though, it is a tough marathon, but like I said, those views are to kill for, so they make up for the pain going up and down those mountains. And it is also a must-do marathon. Then the runner-up is the Ottosdal Night Marathon. If you are searching for a unique marathon experience, the Ottosdal Night Marathon is a must-run. You will enjoy a bit of the sunset and then the night running. If you are talented at running backwards, then the sunset is yours to enjoy for hours. It was my second marathon on the day as part of the 3 Amigos, the 3 marathons in one weekend. It was tough, but the aid stations were out of this world and they kept me going. I think some of the guys at the aid stations even camped there for the whole night. This is because most of those aid stations were actually braai camps or parties. Unfortunately, I had running stomach issues on the day, but I still enjoyed the uniqueness of the marathon through the farming areas, and the toilet breaks were not really that difficult. It was dark and in the bush. I was also racing against time and almost did not make the 5:30 cutoff, but I soldiered on and made it. I definitely am going back for this one, just to enjoy it on a good day, healthy, without any running stomach stories. At number 1, the big one for me for 2023 was the Athens Marathon, the authentic. The Athens Marathon, the authentic, has a rich history. This is where the origins of the marathon have been traced back to, with Philippides having run from the town of Marathon to Athens to deliver the message of the Athenians' victory over the Persians. The first marathon of the modern day Olympics was run on this course. This alone, folks, makes it an iconic marathon that is worth taking the top spot on anyone's list. Despite all that rich history and deserving to be on the top of the list, I must add that this year, the 2023, the Athens Marathon, the authentic race, marked the 40th anniversary of the marathon. This coincided with the end of my 100 before 40 adventure and my 40th birthday in November. So it was a no-brainer. I had to go and do the Athens Marathon. It was my second time running the Athens Marathon, the authentic, so I knew what lay ahead and I had a plan. I managed to run a personal best time for the Athens Marathon, the authentic, and my first sub 4-hour marathon in almost 4 years. So you can understand, folks, why it is at the top. Apart from the rich history, it was also my personal glory for the year. The trip for this marathon took me to 4 countries, and that was a fat cherry on the top of the cake. I will definitely run the Athens Marathon, the authentic, again. Maybe for the 50th edition of the race, if not sooner. So there you go, folks. That's my top 10 marathons for 2023. If you want to see more about these marathons and the other marathons I did in 2023, please check the link below or check on the playlist on this channel. That's it, folks. See you in 2024.